Okay, thanks for joining me today. Today we are going to go over best practices for using the interface itself and kind of, when you sign up or you first log in, you're going to be staring at this screen. And what do you do next? This session is going to cover a lot of the basics. We're going to go through, how to set up your client in our backend, what to add, what to avoid, that sort of thing. And then we're going to talk about ordering a press release, what to fill out, what you can skip, what goes where, all that sort of thing. There'll be a couple of other areas that we'll cover as well. And then we will depending on where we're at in time, I may dive into some of the more advanced stuff, even though I have a session reserved for that later. So we'll just kind of see how we get through things. Do ask questions along the way when I get to a section that you're interested in. So for example, if you're wondering about something that's organization related, go ahead and ask the question when we're talking about that. That way it's contextually all there in one spot. So with no further ado, this is the screen that you'll see when you first get into your account. The What's New tab is something that I should really update more. I have not updated this in a very long time, but this was intended to show you guys kind of what's been going on. I mean, scheduled releases are in testing; those have been live for like 2 years. So obviously, I have not kept up with this. I do hope to do that just so you guys can always poke in and see what we've changed, because we're usually adding lots of minor little tweaks here and there. So the most important thing for you long term is going to be your press release tab. We'll go over this in detail in a minute. But the account tab is, for you, it's going to look a little bit different. This is obviously a test account of mine, so it says that I have everything unlimited and there's no service charge block there. You will show all of your credits. It'll show you when your next bill date is. It'll show you how much you're going to be billed. All of that stuff will be there. What I also don't have here is a tab that shows my invoices. There's a tab here. If you click on that tab, it'll show you a list of all of your invoices, all the payments that you've made. All that stuff will be there, so it's easy for you to look at, review, download if you want to, etc. You've got really one main account setting here that is global to your account, and that is to change your release approval settings. When we'll talk about this a little bit later when we talk about the press release lifecycle. But what this does is we can either have releases come to you so you can check them and approve them before they go out, or you can say, I trust Press Advantage. I don't need to review it. And so once it passes our editorial muster coming back from the writers, then it'll just go straight out without any sort of delay on your end. And then if you if you're working in a space, or some of your clients are in a space that is maybe a little bit less above board, or maybe touches on some of the topics that we're not really allowed to write about, we will normally ask you about it. We'll point out the problem and we'll say, what do you want to do? You can either move forward and get limited distribution, because that means that some of those upstream networks won't pick up that content. Or you can just say, I don't care, go ahead and send it out, even if I'm going to get limited distribution. So these are 2 account-wide settings that you can change. It's really the only account-wide settings that we have. And then you're gonna really, this is good for people that don't want to back in and deal with the interface that often. So there have been some requests to add a few more settings. If you have any settings that you would find useful on your end, definitely let me know. The other 2 tabs here are pretty straightforward. These are your organizations. This is where you add your clients. We'll go over this in a minute. And then this is the retargeting pixels. And again, we'll cover this in a minute as well. Then the third top level tab here is our training and support tab. This shows our support hours, where we have people manning the support queues. We used to take phone calls, but we don't take phone calls anymore. Nobody actually ever called us. So we do email support, and we do strive to have all of our support tickets responded to by the end of every business day. So if you do reach out to us, you should hear within that same day, as long as you're not in Australia or something and you're reaching out in the middle of the night for us. Our training library, these are the older videos that you guys have probably seen. What we're doing now in this series is generally going to replace most of these. The one thing that is this one here with a funky thumbnail talks about the e-com stuff. A lot of those e-com strategies still work really well. We'll cover some of those as well, but that one's actually fairly useful to watch still. So if you haven't seen that, you might want to go back and take a few minutes and watch that. Here is a couple of bonus guides that you may or may not have access. Actually, all of you will have access to it, but people watching this recording may not necessarily have access to these. These are simple PDF downloads that that came with your account as bonuses when you bought. And then here, if you can find these guidelines here, they're also on our website. And occasionally they will get out of sync. The ones on our website are always the most current. Sometimes this one, doesn't get updated at the same time the website does. But if you have any questions about content or what's allowed, what's not, guidelines for writing, all that stuff, go ahead and review this in here. And if you've got questions that aren't answered here, don't hesitate to reach out to support. So that's the quick overview of the interface itself. Let's go into the first thing that you're going to do, which is to add a new organization. So an organization for us represents a brand for you. So it could be a specific client brand. It could be a location. We do recommend that you use an organization for every GMB. So if you're working with a local client who has, say, 5 different locations and correspondingly they have 5 different GMBs, you're going to want to use 5 different organizations. And the reason for that is because the map link is different. The address is going to be different. The phone number may be different, all that sort of thing. And so we want to have every organization mapped tightly with what Google ties together into a given GMB. The form is fairly straightforward. You give it a name, so we can call it a test organization. You give it a contact name. You need to give it either a contact phone number or a contact email address. This is a requirement. We do have to have contact information for this client. And if you don't do this, we'll just throw an error. So if you run into some weird situation where you don't have an email address or a phone number, you're going to have to come up with something. You'll need to make something up. The About Us shows up in the organization page and on the sidebar of every press release that's hosted on our site. And we'll go over that in a minute and kind of look to see what those look like. This is where you can put kind of a summary, marketing type of message, anything along those lines. People do see these pages, so this is an opportunity to kind of present that brand or that business in the positive light. Here's an organization address freeform block. So you would, put it however, makes sense. Somewhere, California, I don't know what the zip code is in California, right? Structure this however you're structuring it elsewhere. So it should match very closely to whatever Google has on your business profile, whatever you have on your main website, it should match as closely as possible. This goes out with every press release. It goes out to every press release pickup. So it's important that it, matches very tightly with what the entity, relationship in Google has for you as well. Facebook ID, this bit here is what people usually get wrapped around the axle on, either the ID number or the string after facebook.com in a short URL for that Facebook profile. This lets you embed it. Some people will type the whole URL in. That's not what we need here. We just need that little ID number. The Twitter handle, you can include this if you want. Right now, we don't do anything with this. It just sits there. It's just one of those things that we have an option for. We may or may not in the future be able to do that. For a while, there was some problems with embedding a Twitter profile. I haven't looked in the last couple of years to see if that is actually still the case or not. The other thing that you're going to need, obviously, is a website URL. So we'll say this is also a requirement. You will not have a valid organization if you don't provide a website URL. You'll want, if it's a local business, to provide us with the map embed URL. If you want to know how to get this, here's a little Vimeo video on how to get the embed URL for that map. It's fairly straightforward, but if you've not done it before, just watch the video. It's like 2 minutes long or something like that, and drop that embed URL in here. Show website preview is another thing that some people get wrapped around the axle on. Honestly, it should always be on. What this does is it embeds the website as an iframe on the press release pages, and that gives you an extra iframe embed of that website. It's a great ranking signal, and so there's no reason not to have that on. Similarly, the secondary embed URL, if you had another page you wanted to embed in your press release pages and the organization page on pressadvantage.com, then you would put that in here. This could be an ID page, it could be an iframe form, it could be any other embed URL or URL that you'd like to embed. You could do that. It shows up as a 1x1 pixel basically on the bottom of a press release. So people don't see it, but the search engines certainly see it and they crawl it. And so that's a great way of getting some extra embed power towards a page that is not necessarily attractive from a visual perspective. You can hide an organization off of our website. Let's say you just didn't want it to show up on our page at all because you don't want our name associated with it, or let's say you worked with a client for a long time and they jacked you around and they charged you back for $30,000 and you want to just take everything down. You can just deselect this and then we won't show anything on our homepage. It's actually something that people sometimes will turn off, not knowing what it does. Unless you have a real big reason for doing that, leave it on. Showing cross links and no follow links, they affect the links at the bottom of a page, and we can show you that in a minute. It's a way to turn off those links or to have those links follow or no follow. Any type of organization-wide schema. So, this is something that you would put, the schema you'd put on the homepage of this business. You'd put it in here as well. And then it will go out and it'll be attached to every release and to the organization page. There's also a release-specific schema that we'll cover in a minute that's additional to this. Here you just put in the schema, ideally just the JSON code. We've talked about this in one of the previous sessions. Make sure you run it through a lint process if you're getting errors. A lot of times, you'll get some malformed JSON out of tools. Really important to do that. This next thing here, the standard release instructions. This is important for people with regulatory requirements. If you're working with somebody that has very specific needs that are covered in every press release, these instructions get appended to every single release order. So, for example, we have one customer who's working with a client who's a podiatrist, and they have a lot of focus on plantar's warts, and if plantar's warts are spelled different than how you might think, because it's PLANTAR, and he kept having to correct that. And so we put in here in the standard release instructions, be sure to spell plantar's warts this way, and then he didn't have to go and add that to every single release order for that organization. You might have, let's say you're working with an attorney and they have very specific requirements about what you can't say, then you would include that there. Similarly, maybe you're working with someone who's pitching supplements and there are definitely some requirements there. So put those in here. It saves you time. So you're not repeating the same instruction boilerplate with every single press release order. We'll go over building retargeting pixels in a minute, but you would attach it to all releases from this organization right here. And what that does is that pixel code that you provide us with, in a different area, that will automatically get added to the press release. It's technically any type of code, so you can get creative. A lot of people who are using it just for ad retargeting will try to use like an image, pixel or something like that instead of JavaScript, because JavaScript does get filtered out. But you can try working with JavaScript tags as well. And there's a lot of upstream folks that don't filter all that out. And then finally, you'd upload a logo for it. You just click here, upload the image, just like any other thing. It's pretty straightforward. And then I won't be able to save this because I already have a test org. So we'll change that name. And then we just click save. Your organization's been saved. Voila. This is a list of all of your organizations. You'll see that there's a link here so we can look at that organization in detail. Is it approved or not for premium distribution? You have to go through a small process before you can send a press release up for premium distribution, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then this little pencil icon over here, this is how you would change it. So let's say we wanted to change the settings for the Press Advantage one, and we wanted, instead of Bobby, we wanted to have it be me. We go back down here, save the changes. And then if we look at it again, it's now me, okay? If we click on this link here to look at the press release or Press Advantage organization page, this gives us a couple of links. So we get the organization's media room. We get an embeddable version of that media room. So we'll compare those in just a second here. And then right here we get, this is where you would find the RSS feed for that organization. What this is it's an RSS feed of every release that goes out for that organization. So anytime you send out a press release for that client, you're going to get a new entry in that RSS feed, which you can run into, Zapier or some other feed processor and do magic with it. You can repost it in places, you can build links to it, you can kind of do whatever you want with it. The releases, this shows all the different releases for that organization. Obviously, this has a bunch of test stuff in it, but you can see that this shows all the different releases here. You can download the release report. You can download a release PDF. This is very similar to what you'll see over in the press releases tab, but it is scoped to just that organization. So as you've been working with us for a while, press release list is going to fill up. You might have 20 different clients and you're sending out press releases. You might have 200 press releases there. It's a little bit of a pain to dig through and figure out, where all the press releases are for one specific client. That's where you'd come here to the organization page, and then you click here and look and find those releases. And then similarly, we'll talk about scheduled orders later, but this is where you would find the scheduled orders for that specific client as well. Okay, any questions about the organizations? Because that kind of covers the orgs. Mary, if you reach out to support, they can send you some resources that can help you get started with some basic schema. All right, cool. So let's look real quick at the media room since we're kind of on topic here. So this is what it looks like. Has the logo there. It has the about blurb. We do have Facebook down here. The contact information, all the different press releases that we've sent out live. And we'll actually open one of those because we want to look at it in a minute. And then down here, if you remember, we talked about how it would embed the website in the iframe. Well, that's right here. And then right down here, you can see right there, there's that 1x1 iframe. I don't even remember what's being embedded there, but something is. And so that gives you that extra secondary embed. The embeddable version of this looks like this, and it has all the same stuff, but it doesn't have our branding at the top, and it doesn't have any of our branding stuff in and links and whatnot down at the bottom. This is for if you want to embed this in another iframe page somewhere, or you want to maybe embed this onto your website or something like that. You can do it do it this way. We'll go ahead and look at the press release as well. So this is what the press release looks like. Obviously, all the same stuff here. You've all seen this before. This here is where the those cross links that we talked about, that's what this is. So every press release links to like the previous 10, I think, press releases, so that there's good cross-linking here. So as this stuff gets crawled, it makes sure that all of your other stuff gets discovered as well. And you can change these links between do follow and no follow just by updating that setting in the organization settings. And then similarly to the, we'll just change this by hand. Similarly to the organization with an embeddable version of it, the press release page also has an embeddable version of this as well. These are actually pretty good links, and tend to be pretty valuable as having a link back to your client from our media room. Our media rooms will rank for branded search, and our press releases that we host will also rank for branded search, especially. So don't sleep on these. And if you've got stuff that you might want to see us change on these, again, feel free to let us know, and we'll talk about it. Any questions about these pages? Awesome. So we'll move forward. If there's any questions that come up along the way, feel free to add them in, and I will talk about them as I can. Let's go over retargeting pixels really quick. It's about as easy as it gets. You give us a name, and then you give us the pixel code, whatever that pixel code is. I know it says here, make sure it's an image tag, that because JavaScript is ignored. A lot of our upstream partners don't ignore JavaScript anymore, so you can test it and give it a shot. What it looks like in the wild. Well, actually, this doesn't look like it in the wild because that's not a valid retargeting pixel. I'm sure you've all seen retargeting pixels and know what they look like. Some people get a little sneaky here and put things in here that are not retargeting related. That's okay, but just know that it might not go out. So. All right, on to the meat of things, press releases. This is what the main interface that you're going to be in your day-to-day interactions with us. There's 3 different release-related tabs. You have your queued orders. These are the things that are kind of waiting to be ordered. You have in progress, which is stuff that is in flight. And then you have all of the press releases that are published and have gone out and are all set. And then you have here your scheduled orders across all of your organizations. So when you're going to place an order, you click order press release. You're first going to get a drop down here, and you have to choose who you're going to send out the press release for. Then you're going to give it a description. This description is internal only. It shows up. Let me show you here. It shows up right here. It only shows up on our interface. This doesn't go out on the wire at all or anything like that. So this is something you might have an order number on your end. You might have a client reference on your end, some sort of shorthand, whatever it is, you can put that in here so that you can identify what this press release is. You can submit fully written content. So you'd put the headline in here, put the body in here and call it good. Or you can use our release writing service, which is typically what most people do. We do say that it's 5 business days as a typical turnaround. Right now, our typical turnaround, since we've made such improvements in our writing pipeline, is closer to 1 business day. So you can kind of ignore some of this. The words that are included in the title of the release are going to be considered broad match. So we could type press release distribution. We try and include it like this, but we may have to say distribution of press releases, or something like that, in order for it to actually flow, although it wouldn't be releases because we will literally go word by word and make sure that every single word is in that title. Try not to get too terribly long. Some people put in long, phrases here. This is really your top subject keyword that you're trying to target, so don't go long tail here. And sometimes people don't even use it for keywords, they use it for more branding related stuff as well. So then you would give us the links that you want us to link to. So you'd put the URL in the first box, and then you'd use an anchor text, right? So in this case, we'll include the word website somewhere in the press release, and it will automatically be a link to pressadvantage.com. If we left this empty, then we will put pressadvantage.com in the press release somewhere, and it will automatically get linkified. So you'd include your anchor text, here up to 3 links. We recommend 1 or 2. And then, like I mentioned on our last, one of our previous calls, when it comes to anchor text, I always recommend that you use branded anchors, naked anchors, or generic anchors. You can use longer tail, keyword anchors if you know what you're doing. But a lot of times, I just kind of recommend that people get their keyword relevance from other places and from in content context and things like that, as opposed to using anchors, because when a press release goes out to 500 different outlets, you can really throw your your anchor text ratios out of whack. So be careful there. We've talked about linking structures, in an earlier one, so I'm not going to go over, kind of the other recommendations and things like that. This is where you tell us what you want us to write about. We really need about a paragraph here. If you don't give us very much, it's going to be tough for us to give you a great press release, and you might not be happy with what you get. You can give us all kinds of information as well if you want, and that's okay too. But by and large, a paragraph or 2 is good. Give us a little bit of an angle. We've talked about this before as well, but don't get too crazy with kind of how newsworthy it has to be. It can be pretty simple at the end of the day if you want it to be. We always include quotes in press releases. So if you don't have quotes of your own, then we are happy to create them. Otherwise, you would put in a quote here, and we will use those quotes in the press release. If you are not already adding the retargeting pixel, then you can add it here. So let's say you only want to do it once in a while, you'd do this here. If you always want to do it, you'd make that change in the organization page. I always recommend that you embed a video. You just drop the watch URL in here, not the embed URL or any sort of embed code. I do recommend that you only use YouTube videos. We do support Vimeo embeds because some people like it, but you will get a lot of search engine juice, so to speak, out of a YouTube video, and Vimeo is kind of pointless for that. So for an image embed, you can embed it later, and how that looks like is when it comes back from our writers, you're going to have a box that looks just like that. And you can see there's a little image button here where you can add an image. We don't recommend that you do it this way. We always recommend that you, do it here. Give us the URL. That URL should be on something that's relevant to that client. So it's their homepage. It's maybe a GMP image or something, something like that. Something that's going to kind of help beef up the that client, that entity in Google's eyes. Because if you are sending it to us, I mean, yeah, you're helping us out a little bit. We're going to show up in Google image search. We don't necessarily want that. We want your client to show up in Google image search. So make sure that you're hosting this on somewhere that's relevant to the client. And then always include a great alt text. A lot of people will use a branded alt text here as well. Kind of whatever you want, maybe brand and keyword or something like that. You can get pretty creative here. Generally speaking, you're going to want to embed a Google map if it's available. And then, here you're going to add any additional schema that you want included just for this press release. So the canonical example that I use for this is you're working with a real estate client. This real estate agent likes to send out a press release for every listing that he gets above $750,000 sale price. And so, he'll set up the main schema for that real estate agent in the organization. And then you're going to craft some listing specific schema, whatever schema is relevant to that real estate listing. And you're going to put that in here, and then it goes out as part of that release. You can get pretty creative here. You can use, review schema. I've seen product schema. All those types of things, can go out here as long as it's relevant to the topic of the release. You're going to see some value out of it. So you can get as creative as you want here. This gets appended to the other schema that you provide, so you kind of get the best of both worlds there. And then the last piece here is scheduling. So you can distribute press releases as soon as they come out. So as soon as you hit the button and say this is approved, then it's going to hit the wire, and that wire service picks it up. Generally, it hits. We push it up to the wire services about every 15 minutes. So depending on when you click the button, it could be right away, it could be up to about 15 minutes. So there's not a whole lot of leeway there as far as timing goes. If you wanted to have a little bit more planning or control over when it goes out, you can schedule it. This is in GMT time, right? Important to recognize that this is in GMT time. So wherever you're at, know how to convert this to your local time zone, and then you just set the time here, and then you'll be good to go. So what happens is, let's say we set this, I want this to go out on July 13th. We go through all the process. It takes 2 days. I get my press release back and I approve it. Well, that press release is going to sit there until July 13th at 1925, and on July 13th at 1925, it's going to hit the wire service. This is great, especially for ecom, because there's a product launch sequence that I teach in that other video, where you're queuing up 3 different press releases around a specific product launch date to really kind of get some traffic and some word out about that product. It's shown to be very successful for folks, but it requires you to schedule everything accordingly, with that release date. Later on, if you need to change that date, you can. If you need to expedite a release and you want it to go out right away, you can. Most people, for just general SEO, are using just roll it out as soon as possible, but there's definitely some reasons to embargo a press release ahead of time. All right, so that's how you submit a press release order. Do we have any questions about that? Greg is asking if you can submit naked anchor text requests periodically. Yeah, Greg, you can use naked anchors as often as you want. We have people that do only naked anchors, and it's not a big deal. How do the instructions per press release differ from the instructions from the client onboarding? So the organization specific instructions, those are valid for every press release. So if we go back to our real estate agent, he may have something minor that says that he doesn't want to talk about I don't know, lakefront property or something like that. Whatever you'd put in there. I don't know. I can't really think of a real estate agent who would have, organization specific, instructions. And then in the instruction box up here, this is where you'd give the information about that listing that we talked about, the details of that list. You'd probably have a link to the listing on Zillow or something here as well, right? And so you're gonna put all of that stuff that is very specific to this release. So the best way of thinking about it is anything that is specific to one release goes in the release instructions. Anything that is specific to all releases for that client should go into the organization instructions, because remember, we add them together, and so the writers see both of those. Hope that helps. Any other questions about the press release ordering? Okay, cool. Now, what happens when you press the button, and I'm not going to do that here because I don't actually want to submit this release, is it will initially go here into the queue. And since you guys are on the unlimited plan with slots, then it's going to, the more often you do this, the longer your queue is going to get. So you may come in and you may queue up 10 different press releases, and then we'll process them as we work through, your available queue slots, right? So you could end up with very few in here. You could end up with a bunch in here. As soon as we pick up that press release and start working on it, it's going to show up over here in the in progress tab. So it's going to move from your queued orders tab. It's going to move to in progress tab. You can see that this one is showing a status here of in process of distribution. This is an old press release. There's a specific reason for that, which I don't necessarily want to go into right now. If you see something that's stuck in process of distribution for more than a day or two, then that's probably a problem, and you should reach out to support and let us know. That typically means that we haven't seen a release come back yet from our, or haven't gotten any kind of reporting back from our upstreams that release got picked up, which may mean that there's a problem with the release itself. So if we look here, you can see the release ID, the description that we gave it earlier, what organization is it for, what type of distribution, is it standard or premium, and then again, the status. Most of the time it's going to be in writing or it's going to be in approval. And so, you'll have a little link here on the side if it's waiting for your action. So this is the tab that you're going to want to check to make sure that, we're not waiting for you to approve the content or revise your writing instructions. Let's say those writing instructions you gave, we needed to check with you to make sure that it would work out okay. It's going to, come back here and you're going to see a link here to take action on that. I probably should have tried to add one up in here so that you could see what that looks like. But anyways, once that goes out the door and we have picked, this one actually already went out, but it's a premium only release. Since Yahoo doesn't actually report back to us, we have to manually change the distribution status. And so, what we're going to try and do, when it's done, it's going to move over to the published press releases. You can't edit the order once it's in progress. If it's in queued, obviously we don't have one in queued right now. If it's in queued and we haven't, picked up on it yet, you can make changes to that. And so, that little pencil icon, so obviously in this case it doesn't work, but in the queued orders, it's definitely going to work for you. Once it goes out, then this and it's going to move over here to the published press release tab. This is all the different press releases that you've issued for them. We've got a link to that as well. We'll click on that in a minute. It shows the description we gave it, what organization it came from, distribution type, the status. You could download a PDF release report. You can download the release itself as a PDF, and then it gives you the date when it was completed. This live search can be helpful. As we type, it filters down. But let's say I knew I wanted to look for one that was described investment. I just start typing in there, and it filters it down. So that can be a great way to find press releases. Anytime you see a search box like that in our interface, you can do that. And then the little refresh button here does exactly what you would think it does. It just refreshes it. All right. Any questions about that? Should be fairly clear. I guess the other thing that I will add here is that if you wanted, say, to take a standard distribution release and upgrade it to premium, I think you have a 2-week window to do that. And as long as you as long as you do that, you're gonna get a link here that lets you upgrade that release to premium. So you'll have to click that and go through. There's a verification to make sure you really do want to upgrade it, and so that we don't accidentally charge you for something that you didn't really intend to do. Let's see. All right, the questions. Yeah, Mary, there is a lot to learn. Hopefully, going over these recordings when they come out will be great for you. If you get behind, the 8 ball on any of this stuff, don't hesitate to reach out. Our support folks are great. They work really hard to take care of all of you. So definitely reach out to them, and we'll get you unstuck if you get stuck. Justin asks, how do we mention location in the PR? If, for example, we're targeting Elizabethan through Johnson City's map and profile info, you could put that into into the subject keyword, for example. Let's say you wanted to do Elizabethan, and then a service into that keyword, then it'll be in the title. That's always a great way to do it. Including it in the instructions is also good. And then obviously, if you wanted to, you could use an anchor. That's a case where a branded anchor would be great. You could, I let's see, let's come up with a service name, right? Well, we'll just use one here. So we'll say, True Grit Roofing Company, or so we'll just call it True Grit in Elizabethton, right? And that's a branded anchor that has a little bit of extra on it that's giving you that geographical relevance as well. So not only are you going to get that in the content proper because you put it in the instructions, but by adding it to the anchor, then you're also going to get a little bit of extra benefit from there. Hope that clarifies. Greg says, don't accidentally hit cancel to cancel a new order. You might cancel a schedule order. Yeah, so the one thing that people, often do, which I really need to change the UI up. This is an old UI interface, and it's on our to-do list to clean this up and change this a little bit. But make sure you press the submit button and not the order new release button, because if we press the order new release button, it opens a brand new form and all the work that you did is gone. It sucks. It's a terrible experience, and I have no good way of fixing it because these buttons are just literally right next to each other. And so, when we do a UI refresh, that will not be the case anymore, because that's just not a great experience for people. All right, so let's look at the releases themselves. So we'll pick up this one here. If we click on that release, it shows us the release name, it shows us the title, it shows us the URLs. These are the same URLs that we looked at before with the organization, just specific to that press release. You can download the PDF here. You can also use an RSS feed, which is just for that single release. So if you wanted to do that, I know there's some people that do that from time to time, not a problem. I don't know that you guys can actually change an organization or hide it. That might work. I don't know, actually. I thought those were admin only, and I'm not in an admin account, so that may or may not work. It's not supposed to. I think hiding it is going to work for you, but change organization shouldn't. And then here on the syndication pickup tab, this is where you get all the list of the different sites that picked it up. And then you can click here, export it as a CSV, it'll download it. You can change how many you want per page. If we wanted to see all of them, it's going to show all of them. This is very, this UI piece is very similar for any of our little table-based UIs. You're always going to have those export capabilities, and you're always going to have that pagination capability as well. So the most important piece of all of this is the URL. This stuff doesn't even get updated, so I really need to just hide it because it hasn't been updated in forever. But yeah, so that's where you get the information about the specific, press releases themselves. Fairly straightforward. Any questions about this? Cool. Okay, so we're at about 45 minutes in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a quick gloss over the scheduled orders, but we're going to cover scheduled orders and how to use them most effectively in the next session. And we're going to go over some of that advanced usage. I may or may not, tie that in with some strategic stuff and get out of just the pure interface as well. It just kind of depends on how that works out. So this is the interface that shows you all of the scheduled orders in your account. You can have a regular scheduled order, or you can have a scheduled stack order. And we've talked about the difference between those in a previous call, but a scheduled order is just a generic, I'm going to send out a press release. It's not going to have any relevance necessarily to the previous press release. It's going to use all the information I gave it, but that's it. A stack order is going to have reference to the previous press release. It's going to link to stuff from the previous press releases, all that sort of thing. And again, we'll go over that in a lot more detail in the next session. But if we look here at the scheduled order interface, it's very similar for each one. We're going to give it a frequency. So, let's say we want to schedule a press release every 12 days. We want it to start right away. We want to, send out 10 press releases before it stops, and we want 2 press releases or 2 links per press release. Using standard distribution, we're gonna, we'll just leave that client. If we're out of credits, we want to just go ahead and bill me for more credits because I definitely want my press releases to go out. We're gonna put in a say ALR scheduled, call it land acquisition. So this will go into the description of the press release, that internal field. So, and this is a way for you to know that it came from a scheduled order. We're going to have a primary keyword. Remember, this primary keyword maps back to that primary subject of the press release in that same order form. We can add a bunch of them. So we can fill this out and we can say, well, we want, it's just going to pick one. So, we could say like, buy land fast, or we could say acquire land cheap, or we could say buy vacant land, right? So you kind of get the idea. And then when it issue or orders the press release, it's going to pick one of these, and it's going to take that and use that as part of that order process. Instructions here are very similar, same general concept as before. The one thing that's different is obviously it's not going to be specific to that press release, so it has to be a little bit more generic. So what some people will do is they'll set up a schedule. Let's say you're working with a roofing company and you want to have press releases go out about new roof installs. You want to have it about roof replacement, and you want to have one about roof cleaning, let's say. So you'd have 3 different scheduled orders that go off on different cycles, so that they're not all firing at once. And that first one's going to be focused on new roof. So your keywords are going to be related to that. Your instructions are going to be related to that. Your links and anchor, they're going to be related to that. And then the next one is about, roofing repair. Similar thing. Your primary keywords, your subjects, those are going to be about roof repair. Your instructions are going to be about roof repair. And then your anchors and everything are also going to be about roof repair. So that's how you get around the fact that we're going to use the same instruction every single time. So the real difference comes in the subject, that primary keyword, as well as the anchor text. Same thing as before. You give us some quotes. Generally, for this, you just want us to create quotes because you don't want to use the same quotes over and over again. Use your retargeting pixels, embed your map. Same thing with links. You add a whole bunch of them, right? And then, we're going to pick, in this case, because up here we said 2 links per release. We're going to randomly pick 2 of these and we're going to use it. And if we use the same URL, advantage.com, press advantage.com, if I can spell today, com. And we're going to say press release. See, I really can't spell. And then we'll say local business PR. So when it decides what it's going to do, it's going to look and see, okay, I've got 2 here for pressadvantage.com. I only want to use that link, that specific URL, one time. And so I'm going to pick one of these and I'm going to use it, and it won't use the other one. You can also link to your organization page, and you can choose to link to a previous press release, in which case you can pick which one. This should probably be on the other side of that. And so that's ways where you can quickly pull some information from the from your organization. This is how you can build some manual stacks if you wanted to. A lot of people will like to link to their organization page in a press release to just power everything up and so on and so forth. But again, it's going to, per URL, it's only going to choose one, and it will only choose a total of however many you gave it up above. In this case, that was 2. Embedded images, again, very similar. Give us some alt text. You can either upload a video or an image. Please don't do that. Give us a URL. And so you can, again, give a bunch of them, and we'll choose a random one. Same thing for videos, right? Just give us video URLs to embed. We'll pick a random one and we'll embed it. And then you click save, and then it will start and it will fire off. Any questions about that? Cool. Let's look at the PR stack order form real quick. It's very, very similar, right? The primary difference is you're going to give us a link for the first release because you may want that to link back to something else. Usually this is going to be the home page or the the GMB profile or something like that. And then similarly here, you can link to a specific URL, or you can link to the previous release, and then you can either go to the last release in the stack, first release in the stack, or a random release in the stack. So it's kind of up to you on how you design it. We'll go over this piece in specific in the future on kind of more of a slide-based presentation because it's hard to kind of understand how this all ties together here. Just know that this is how how you're going to do it here. So other than that, everything is the same. So I hope that's pretty clear. Awesome. Okay, any questions about that? Cool. So I think we've wrapped up. Actually, we got through that faster than I thought we would. So we did kind of go over the scheduled orders. Once they are, let me show you a couple of other things here. You can see here that this one, for example, has reached its release limit. You could edit it, and you can say, I want it to order, 60, and then you can save it, save the changes, and then it'll automatically go in and do that, right? And so it'll kind of restart it again. There's a way, if you want to, pause, something, you can see you can activate, deactivate, you can delete it. So the similar, type of mechanism for, press release management. Anytime you see the little checkbox, you can often, click it and see what it will let you do. So. Sometimes the stack links don't work. Let me know what you're talking about and support, just email support. Let me know what you're talking about. I'm not sure what you mean there. Mary, the keyword tool is actually gone. We pulled that out. It used to be up here as another tab. Nobody used it. And so, we've removed it. I need to pull that off of our website, but that's been gone for, oh boy, over a year now. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you for your attention once again. We will, and thanks especially for your flexibility. I know that it was kind of a last minute notice last week that we needed to change the date and time, but Fridays all of a sudden for personal reasons got real bad for me, and so I needed to move it to Thursday, which is a better time, I think, anyways, because who wants to sit on a training webinar on Friday afternoon, right? And Thursday is just a little bit more entertaining, I suppose. So next week, I don't know that we actually need to do another session in the UI next week. I think we kind of covered most of it. If there's some specific stuff that we run into as part of our, the kind of these future training modules, then certainly we can switch over to the UI and walk through how to actually implement some of that stuff. But I think as far as a pure in UI training, I try to keep this as simple as I can and as straightforward as I can. So I think we pretty much covered everything. If you have things that you're getting in trouble with or having troubles with, certainly let us know and we'll do our best. And maybe there's some rough edges yet that we can smooth out. But other than that, thanks again for your time and attention, and I look forward to talking to all of you on next Thursday, same time. Have a good one.